In our 7 weeks traveling Sri Lanka, we got the possibility to meet a lot of wonderful people and learn more about the country. The locals are very open and vocal about their situation, so the following interview we made with Rashika and Candy is one example of that, to give you a better insight from another perspective.
As you know, now Sri Lanka is facing a economic crisis since 2022, beginning of Sri Lanka 2022. So, because of the economic crisis, the inflation, and mainly inflation is higher, more than 70% at the moment. So it impacts because of when you look about the village and the city, because personally I live in Kandy, so for me, and I'm doing a business with a local guest house, so I'm working with foreigners. It's not impact me a lot like the village people of village, but when you when you go inside the villages, so like Sigiriya, Dambulla kind of cities, so you can see many families affected with the economic crisis, and they have many problems because of the financial situation especially. So normally they are average, because they are day workers. So their average salary per month $200. So $200 is, when you think about it, you can do nothing here in Sri Lanka at the moment. So their salary, their wage, so in the same position more than 10 years right now. More than 10 years, same position, it's not getting increased when you compare with the goods prices. So the prices is getting higher day by day, but the salary is same position. So now, to survive of the village people, what they're doing basically they skip their meals. So normally when you get a person, they have lunch, breakfast, lunch and dinner, but to cover the cost of their family with the $200, so they do basically, they skip the meals, like they skip lunch, they go for the dinner, or skip dinner, they go for the breakfast, like that. Because every family in Sri Lanka usually members 3-4 members, including mother and father, at least four members of family. So according to government statistics, so they need for month at least current situation, they need at least $500 or something like that for survive for their entire family for month. But with $200 for the salary and the expenses is it take 500, so it have a huge gap. So that is why they are going kind of things. And also when you take about the world some statistics, at the moment Sri Lanka world number 4th or inflation countries, highest inflation countries. Sri Lanka now in position in world number 4th or something like that, 4 or 3, I don't remember at the moment. And also when we talk about the children malnutrition, and world number 6. So 2 years ago, 1 year ago, Sri Lanka never been even in the top 10 or top 20 because of the latest economic crisis. Sri Lanka now at the top 5, in the top 5 in these situations, these statistics. So this is the basic thing you need to know about the economic crisis. This is how hard to Sri Lankans. So with this economic crisis, you have some other things, like, because economic crisis means Sri Lanka, because this is a financial crisis. So that means we don't have dollars at the moment. The dollars mean we don't have enough assets in the central bank. So we cannot bring, especially because Sri Lanka, the economy is based on imports, especially. So the more than 70% import, but the 30% export. So our main import like fuel and some essential foods and drugs. So at the moment, these three essential things like fuel and drugs and the foods, now government has banned and limited, and some are totally fully banned to import to Sri Lanka. So now the people, now you already know, now you are traveling more than I think 3-4 weeks here in Sri Lanka, so you know the power cuts. Every day 3-hour power cut. Here we have twice a day, the afternoon and the evening. So, but the problem is it's not heading to the good way. It's heading to in a bad way. So it's now the government planning for the 3 hours power cut to extend to 10 hours. So in the near future, because they don't have enough dollars to bring fuel and to make generate electricity kind of thing, charcoal kind of things.
What do you or what do everybody else wishes to change?
You mean change? What do you
change to make the economic situation a little bit better?
Yeah, personally, I think because everyone contain many. They have many ideas. But in my opinion, to change this situation to the current situation of Sri Lanka, Sri Lankan government need to change, and not only the government, also people have to change their attitudes. To change, I mean, in a better way. When we look at about like a European country, to change a country like Singapore or kind of the country, because Singapore also in the past a poor country. So poor country than Sri Lanka, but change their way. Now it's one of a rich country. I mean, wealthiest country among other countries in the world. So to change, the first thing is I think people need to change. If the people can change, we can change the government too. Because mainly Sri Lankan people, they get very wrong decision most of times, because they look at the shorter distance than the longer distance. So that is why after 1948 we got the independence. So after 70 years we are still suffering because we didn't get the right decision at the right time. And this is the first thing to change the country. That means when we change a good government, that means because when you talk about the system of Sri Lanka, it's corrupted. It's totally corrupted. When you talk about the politicians in the parliament, corrupted. When you go to basically when we go to the train station, just a simple example. When you go to the train station, you can see how hard to get a ticket. But the same ticket you can get in the black market very easily to paying lot of money. That means the system is not well maintained, or we don't have a good system. If we can change these kind of small things, we can change this country to a good path. When we go to Europe, the people not throwing their garbage onto the streets. It's a simple thing. But when you come to South Asia, especially when I talk about Sri Lanka, the people need to change. We need to keep our property clean. We need to keep our environment clean. I mean, surround us. We need to keep us. Then, like from the child to when we get adult, we need to change the brain of how they think. We need to teach how to do these things in a good way.
This is a really good point you make, because you say people have to change and they need to be taught, because it doesn't come from nothing, right? The people only know how to treat their surroundings and the nature well, and how to be interested in politics and how to be active in politics to be able to protect the nature, not throw garbage away,
Of course.
maybe integrate some new organization that is politically active
Yes.
to be some kind of new movement. So we need education first, so
Of
the
course.
people know how to do it,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And where could the education come from?
Yeah, good point. Because you say that the where this education system come from. Actually, this is the main problem. The education system is in Sri Lanka very old. Not only the education, the law of Sri Lankan law. When you talk about the law of Sri Lanka, is old. We are still following 1948 law. After we got the freedom from British 1948, but these law implemented by the British, but still we are using after 17 years same law, even the same education. So we are still learning about the history. It's okay, learning about history, okay, but they don't teach. They teach to dress white clothes, but not to keep your environment clean. That is a good point when you think about, because in my college system we have a law like we have to wear white color suit to show to the people that we are clean. We have a uniform like that, but in our school education system it's not teach how to clean your property, how to clean your surrounding, and how to behave like that. Not only the appearance, people need to change inside their what we call their thoughts. Their thoughts should be also clean. So education should be changed, because also when you get because this education system doing by the government, as you say, like other countries doing by the governments. But the thing is, because we have government for 5 years, then change it to 5 years. Every government change according to their rules this education system for every 5 years. So like we have parties, government party, political party. So when they come to power, doesn't matter it's a government party or opposite party, they change the syllabus of the education system, how they see the world. Okay, so if I learn 5 years with this government, and next government come to the power, they change according to the like that. 1 to 13 years we are going for the school, grade 1 to grade 13. And think you are a singer or artist, but you are fail in mathematics. So after 10 years, we have exam named ordinary level. So after O level, if that person, if you think you are an artist and you can draw beautifully, like maybe Leonardo da Vinci or something like that. After 10 years, you have to fix an exam. You failed in mathematics, you throw away from the school. Then after that, now you are a good artist. That there is no path to go that artist, because you failed mathematics. That means you cannot go more further. If you have money in your family, your mother or parents, they can spend some money to send you to the foreign university and teach you. But if you don't have money, you have to end up your school after 10 years.
What you described is like the people have not a fair chance in education system, and also the people feel helpless in case of politics, because you have government party and opposition party,
Yes.
but it doesn't really matter.
No, because we don't have national policy.
Yeah.
We don't have national policy, because policy depend every 5 years the policy change. That is why when you go around the Sri Lanka, the roads, like you can see, the roads completely a mess, because 5 years they come to power and they do some, and after their power the policy is not same. Like we have now project sanitary project here in Kennedy. It's started the last government, but now it's stopped. Why? Because new government they came to power, so they stopped that project. So now that the previous project now 70% completed, but not 100% completed. So we have to wait until the last government come back to the power to complete that.
Is it allowed in Sri Lankan institution to create a third party?
Yeah, because at the moment we have a third party people because in Sri Lanka, mainly when we think about these last 70 years, we have in every party we have a color. Okay, so simply we have blue color and the green color. These blue color party and the green color party same. 5 years blue color, next again green color, blue color, green color, blue color, green color, like that. So they have control more than 30 years, at least 30 years, 35 years, each party, this country. Now we have another party that what we call the red color one, but it's a small party, but educated party. Because when we think about the government party and the political party, they are not educated. Some of the very famous thieves, but they are in power. You will know what happen if you vote to a thief. He will not be a good person anymore. When we get the power, he is doing his job continuously. So when we think about our parliament, we have 225 members, okay, the parliament members, and more than 200 members not completed their graduate levels. So these people making law. So you can imagine what will happen to a country. If you are not educated like in science, maybe finance or something like that. Think about finance. At the moment our finance minister, previous finance minister, he is not a graduated one. He just passed his ordinary level. Most of them are not even past ordinary level. But people vote them and selected the parliament. Now we have to we have to work under them. So it's like a country controlled by fools.
And has the Red Party a chance in the future at the next
we think because this government party and the political party, they have power, mean they have financially they are stable. That is the problem here in Sri Lanka, because if you want to select it if you want the people votes in Sri Lanka, you have to
pay for advertisement.
Pay for the advertisement kind of things, and especially actually this is not the politician problem, this is the problem of the citizen. Because in Sri Lanka, if you can give a roofing sheet, this is hilarious, because if you can give when you go into the village, and if you can give to their family like a roofing sheet, maybe to make some sanitary system, and they vote to you. So like you are giving some trades and you hoping the votes. So you don't have, because otherwise they're going like promises. Okay, when I come to the power, I will do this, I will do this. So, but when they come to power, they will never do it. And the problem of the citizen of Sri Lanka, that's why I say the education should be changed. We should select not for the benefits, for our self-benefits. We need benefits, not only for me, for the whole community. But think you are a candidate and you have money and you are going to the inside the village or rural places, rural cities. So then you can give some money to you are offering a job in your maybe government sector or something like that. The people vote you. People don't matter how is your history, how is your background, how is your education system. They don't care you that things. Actually, we should care that things. How is your family background? Especially how is your education background? Because one day you are the leader of the country. You represent us. So that means you should be educated. Otherwise, how can you make law and take decisions? So in my village also, people, if you can give something, I mean like a roofing sheet or whatever they like, a small thing, you can get their votes. So that is why thieves and corrupted, so because they can spend some money for the advertisement kind of things, so they are actually buying the votes. That is why Sri Lanka at the moment like this.
And I would like to know, what are the best things about Sri Lanka?
The first thing, the good things of Sri Lankans, that is why you asked, right? The hospitality. The first thing, I think hospitality is a good thing of Sri Lanka, because I have traveled to not many but few countries, but the hospitality is not such like Sri Lanka, because the people of Sri Lanka friendly and helpful, and they think others, especially when you are a guest for them. They treat you like king most of the time. Maybe they have difficulties, but they try to give you their best. When I think about Sri Lankans, I like thing is the hospitality of Sri Lankans. No matter you are a local or foreign, when we go somewhere, they treat you like in a good way. These days, I don't think the international media is showing a good image of Sri Lanka, because economic crisis, because the media always show, they making the problem is more bigger and show it to the world as a bigger. But when you come here, Sri Lanka have a good diversity, and when you come to the nature is rich, and the people also is very friendly and hospitality, and the people are most of the time humble. That is the most important thing to come a tourist, because we know, I'm not mentioned some countries, when we travel there as a tourist, you will never travel again there. So because of the system, because of the people, and you will not satisfy during your travel. But when you come here to Sri Lanka, you will not disappoint, because Sri Lanka, we have many multinational cultures. Like when we go think about Buddhism, Muslims, Tamil, Christians, so everyone lives here. And also when you talk about the climate in Sri Lanka, you have like not summer, but you have sunny, and also if you want cold weather, also you have cold weather, and hills like beautiful landscapes, and atmosphere also very nice. Beaches, very nice beaches we have. And we don't have 4 seasons like Europe, but we have only rain and the sun season. So when you come to Sri Lanka, you have these things especially, and we have many rich foods, like food styles here in Sri Lanka. So spicy foods, non-spicy foods, some special curries. You cannot find around the world these kind of food varieties here in Sri Lanka. So you can have these things when you come to Sri Lanka. Definitely you will like it, and you will come second time in your next visit. Yeah.
That's a really good and